So, y'all, I'm a little irritated, and I might run through this real quick because this is the fourth time that I've tried to record this video. I don't know if it's a sign. I don't know what it means, but we're going to talk about this because this has to get spoken about, okay? So bear with me. I just put my phone in airplane mode to get this video done. Hold on. All right, you guys, I'm back. So, you guys, I've been talking about Jacky O and her death, unfortunately, in the last few months, because since it happened, it's been a little bit of a buzz in the surgery community, and there's been a lot of misinformation and a lot of people that were waiting to figure out what exactly happened. So I want to talk to you today about what happened, but more than just what happened, I want to talk to you about how you can avoid it happening to you, what things you can do to try to avoid the same type of situation, because unfortunately, Jacky O is not the only person this has happened to. This has happened to a lot of women, and unfortunately, I just feel like all of this could have been avoided if the right type of information was given. So let's have that conversation. You guys, a few months ago, Jacky O, the wife of young DC Flies from Wild 'N Out, his wife, she passed away as a result of a complication from her cosmetic surgery that she had in Miami with Dr. Zach. Now, she announced on Instagram that she was going to be having a mommy makeover with Dr. Zach, and she seemed pretty excited. She even took a picture in her little, like, surgical gown and the whole nine. But shortly after, the pictures went missing. I don't know why. It was a little bit weird, but whatever. So she had her surgery, and she was discharged about 2 hours after her surgery, which is typically unheard of. I mean, my patients sit in the recovery room for 2 hours and then get moved to a hospital room for overnight. So I don't know why they do that in Miami, but that's neither here nor there. That's their thing. Anyway, point is that she was discharged about 2 hours after her surgery, and she went to a hotel. During the time she was in her hotel, she had her aunt with her, and apparently during that time she had a headache. So they contacted the doctor's office and let them know, like, hey, I've got this really bad headache. It's not going away. What do I do? And they told her, look, stop taking this medication and start taking this medication. Guess they switched up her meds. Now, clearly, when you have surgery, you're going to be prescribed a bunch of pain medication and different things to help you be comfortable and to stay safe during your post-op phase. However, none of those things are 100% like anything in life. So that's what I want to talk to you about, because when you go for plastic surgery, just like Jacky O did, just like I have done, just like many of you have done, and many of you are considering to do, right? We're going to be presented with consent forms that we have to sign. And those consent forms talk about the procedure, the anesthesia, the things that are going to be done. But one of the really important pieces that most of us kind of glaze over is the section that talks about complications. And in that section, there's a whole conversation about the different things that can happen to you during your surgery and after your surgery that's nobody's fault. Things that are completely out of the control of the surgeon, things that are out of even your control, right? And so these are things that we need to be mindful of. And so what do you do when you see a big warning label on anything? Something you're going to drink, something you're going to do, somewhere you're going to go. Whenever you see a red flag or a warning label, you always try to figure out how to keep yourself safe, how to keep yourself out of the loop, how to keep yourself away from the drama, right? And unfortunately, when it comes to plastic surgery, a lot of these girls don't consider that. They just skip over the complication thing because they're like, oh, I read a lot about that in the groups. We've talked a lot about that in groups, and I've talked to my surgeon. My surgeon's never had a problem, blah, 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 and you don't worry about it. But this is exactly where this situation comes into play. So she went and she had a headache. She switched up her medication. The medication apparently didn't seem to be helping. So a little bit later, her headache was worse, and her aunt called 911 because she just was like out of control in pain. By the time that Miami Metro emergency services got to her, she was not responsive. And by the time she got to the hospital, she was pronounced dead, unfortunately. And so obviously, whenever you die, an autopsy is done because they want to know what happened. Who is at fault? I mean, especially with somebody this big in the media, we want to know what happened. This is crazy. This is a young woman who went for a beautification process and didn't make it out. What happened? Is it his fault? We need to know, because if it's his fault, he needs to pay. Blah, 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 right? And I get that, and I'm all for that. But the problem is that she signed the consent forms, and the consent forms told her that she had to be careful for certain complications. When she went to this hotel, she went and was completely unsupervised by medical personnel. She was completely disconnected from emergency services or from life-saving services if she needed them. And it was way too soon after a major, massive surgical intervention. There definitely should have been better measures for her aftercare put in place, at least for the first 72 hours, at least, especially if you're in the States where you have emergency access so easy. But one of the things I want to tell you is if you're going to be coming to the Dominican Republic, and you're going to have surgery, right? And you think you're going to stay like at an Airbnb or a hotel or a friend's house, I really need you to consider very strongly what you're doing in your first 3 to 5 days post-op. The reason I say that is because look at what happened with Jacky O. Jacky O had a headache. It could have been a blood clot. It could have been an embolism. It could be a lot of different things that happened that clearly Dr. Zach didn't know of because he wasn't with her, didn't know how to predict that her body would clot so fast or not clot so fast. There were things that didn't happen during the surgery. During the surgery, she was stable. During the surgery, she was okay. And so the autopsy ruled that her death was accidental. Her death is not really anybody's fault. It's definitely not Dr. Zach's fault. And why is that? I bet you this is because the complications happened once she left the facility, once her procedure was done, and she was aware that certain complications could arise, and she wasn't in a place that could attend to her complications in a timely manner. And I know people think like, oh, well, you're in DR. Yeah, we're in DR, but she was in Miami, and she's a celebrity. And 911 still didn't get to her fast enough, and still didn't get her to the hospital fast enough to save her life. So why would you want to stay in a hotel or an Airbnb or anything like that? Here in the Dominican Republic, recovery houses have to have an ambulance contract. They have to have these emergency services in place, and we have to have emergency equipment in our house, life-saving equipment in our house that most of these Airbnbs and makeshift recovery type situations don't have. And if you're going to stay in an Airbnb by yourself, you definitely don't have this. And if there's an emergency, I'm almost 99% sure you don't know how to handle it fast enough to get yourself where you need to be. So you guys, please use Jacky O's life and legacy as a learning tool to save your own life, to protect yourself, and to protect the loved ones that we have that may cross this plastic surgery bridge. You cannot take the complications lightly. If you're working with good people, the chances that these things happen, because of the safety protocols and the measures that are in place, you should be able to avoid some of this. But there's no way to guarantee it, which is why it's not his fault, which is why he's not going to see charges, which is why it's not going to be ruled medical malpractice, and why, unfortunately, she's gone and there's nobody to blame. Please make better decisions. Please make the right decisions for you so that if something does happen, it's not your fault, that you did everything that you could to put yourself in the right situation, in the safe place, with the right type of people to have the right type of support for you. I can't tell you how important it is. I've had thousands of girls over the years that I've coordinated, and I've never had a death or a severe problem or anything more than a slight, teeny, maybe infection that a person caught from something random. But never, ever have we ever had anything that required medications or surgeries or emergency interventions or death. And that's because we're really anal about the way we take care of our girls. And so I know it might seem annoying, and I know it might seem a little bit extra, but I promise you, that few extra dollars that you don't want to spend, the few days with a few extra people that you don't know in a recovery house, it can save your life. It can mean the world. And not just to you, but to the people that love you. So please keep that in mind. With that, I'm going to let you go. I wish you guys a great day. Stay safe. Be safe. God bless y'all. I love y'all.